When bottom feeders like you come in, the quality of the ceremony goes down. And besides, doesn't it stink like a toilet when you're around? The groom twisted his face as if he were in the presence of something smelly and made a gesture as if he was swatting it away. Sure, I'm a janitor and I clean toilets frequently, but of course, it never smells. Hey Daniel, don't say things like that. You said Luna is my important friend, right? Ignoring Chloe's protest, the groom continues. Don't bring that kind of person with you, Chloe. If I'm going to marry you, I want you to cut ties with a bottom feeder who can only do a stupid job like cleaning. Otherwise, they'll think I've got a weird wife. You, for God's sake! I stopped Chloe as she was about to speak and said, It's okay. When I said that, Chloe must have understood something, and she closed her mouth quietly and glared at the groom. Meanwhile, I looked straight into the groom's eyes and said with a smile, Thank you for your kind words. Please look forward to my speech later today. I stopped Chloe as she was about to speak and said, My name is Luna. I am 36 years old and I have a husband who works for a company and a daughter in her first year of the elementary school. Currently, I work as a janitor at a company called Alpha Securities for a certain reason. When I first started working as a janitor, I was nervous because many of the other janitors were a little older than me and I struggled with the unfamiliar job. However, I gradually became friendly with the people around me and now my work gradually improved. Now I take pride in this job. Speaking of which, I have an irreplaceable mom friend. Her name is Chloe. We were in the same class in junior high school and have been close friends ever since. Chloe is now a single mother with a daughter in the 3rd grade. For some reason, Chloe has always had bad luck with men, and her previous husband cheated on her, so she became a single mother 3 years ago. She received compensation for damages, but apparently her ex-husband hasn't been paying child support, and she's been struggling financially. However, when I had a lunch meeting with Chloe the other day, she told me, Actually, I'm getting married. What? I thought you said you were done with men. I thought about it and I came to the conclusion that I don't want my daughter to suffer financially, especially since I'm not receiving child support. It may sound like I'm just after his money, but that's not the only reason. But you wouldn't marry someone you didn't like, would you? Of course not. That's not why I was on the marriage hunt and found a good person. He's an employee of Alpha Securities. Really? Yeah. I felt a sense of familiarity with him because I thought he worked at the same company as you, Luna. From there, we became friends. Even though you said he works at the same company, he doesn't have the same job. I mean, he's not a janitor, right? Yeah, he works in the sales department. He's a bit aggressive and has a strong sense of pride, but he really wants to get married and is willing to prove any amount of financial support for my daughter. He's okay with me being a housewife, so overall, it's a pretty good deal for me. I felt a little uneasy hearing that. It seemed too good to be true. How can someone who offers such good terms be single? I expressed my suspicion, saying, doesn't it seem a little scary? Well, he's 40 years old, so maybe he's thinking he needs to get married soon. Chloe didn't seem to be particularly worried. If those circumstances are there, it's not unreasonable to rush into marriage. I started to get worried about various things, but I thought that since Chloe herself thinks that it's a good thing, there's no need for me to interfere, and I changed the subject. Are you gonna have a wedding? Yeah, we're planning to have a wedding and then register our marriage. And if it's okay with you, Luna, could you give a speech as the maid of honor? Chloe pleaded with both hands collapsed. Speaking in public was a little embarrassing, but it was my beloved friend's big day. Of course, I'd be happy to do it if you want me to. I readily agreed to her request. The day after I accepted Chloe's speech request, I was cleaning the men's restroom. Besides the urinals, there were 2 stalls, and just as I was finished cleaning the first one, I was called out to. Hey, wait a minute! Yes, what is it? This stall is dirty. The man who complained was about 30 years old. I knew he was a salesperson at Alpha Securities because he has an employee ID badge around his neck, and it said Daniel Smith, Second Sales Department, with the Alpha Securities logo. I'm sorry, I just haven't gotten to that area yet. I just finished cleaning this stall, so please feel free to use it. I bowed my head and said that, but instead of apologizing for the misunderstanding, the man let out a loud sigh and said, "Just clean it already. Don't slack off because it's a low-level job." He spit out those words and went into the stall I guided him to. It was the first time someone had ever spoken to me like that. I cannot emphasize this enough, but I take pride in this job. It's extremely rude to call it a low-level job, and I didn't slack off or do anything wrong. In fact, I had only just begun cleaning, so I haven't even touched the area yet. Even though I thought, why do I have to be spoken to like that? I swallowed my words, thinking the other person just must have been in a bad mood. There was an empty can of coffee in the stall he just left. However, it was soon clear that the man in question was not uncomfortable with bugs. At my workplace, Alpha Securities, even the janitors are allowed to use the employee cafeteria. However, it was my daily routine to prepare and bring not only lunch for my husband, but for myself in a lunchbox, and eat it with the other janitorial staff members on a bench outside. But on that day, I overslept and ended up having to eat alone in the cafeteria. As I was waiting in line at the ticket vending machine with excitement for the cafeteria that I normally only get to clean, the man cut in saying, "Excuse me? What? I'm standing in line." When I protested, he lazily turned his face towards me and said, "But with that outfit, you're cleaning staff, right? I could tell from your clothes." It was true that our janitor uniforms, white shirts, black skinny pants, were less fashionable than the stylish Alpha Security office workers, making it easy to distinguish us as cleaners. So what if I'm in cleaning staff? That doesn't mean you can cut us in line. Hey, you know what? I have a meeting in the afternoon and I have to prepare for it. Do you understand that I'm in a hurry? Cleaners who work slowly and lazily are different from the rest of us, and besides, who do you think they are, eating in our company cafeteria? We've worked hard to earn our money, and that's why the company cafeteria is so cheap. Do you want people to do unproductive work like cleaning to benefit from it? The man talks nonsense with his incomprehensible theory. I feel like I've seen that face somewhere before. As I traced my memory, I realized it was the man who complained to me in the restroom earlier. Here we go again, I thought. Well, I guess there's no one else who would be so out of touch to pick a fight with a janitor. Come to think of it, I missed it last time, but now I understand that this is the kind of person he is. If he had just to say he was in a hurry, I would have given way to him willingly. Why does he have to speak in a way that causes such a fuss? And if he doesn't like janitors using the employee cafeteria, he should talk to the president directly, as it is a rule that is defined in the company's regulations. When I confronted him with a logical argument, the man's face turned bright red and he said, "If you want me to let you go, just say so." And without even thanking me, he cut in and bought his meal ticket and went to the other lane from me. I also ordered food from the company cafeteria and returned to the dishes after finishing my meal. When I looked at the table that Daniel had used, there were food crumbs and soup spills all over it, making it very dirty. Despite that, time passed and Chloe's wedding day arrived. Since I was asked to give a speech and couldn't find time to meet with Chloe, I still hadn't been introduced to the groom. I was walking down the hallway where the bride's dressing room was located. I had been told to come into the dressing room because there were some things I needed to adjust regarding the speech before the ceremony. That's when I encountered the worst person. As I was looking for the bride's dressing room, someone came out of the groom's dressing room and opened the door saying, "Oh, sorry." I almost collided with him, and I looked at his face and it was Daniel. Daniel was standing there in a tuxedo. "Huh?" the groom shouted in a loud voice. It seemed he had also remembered my face. What's going on, Daniel? What's wrong? Chloe came out of the dressing room, hearing Daniel's voice. Why is the janitor like you here? That's my line. Why are you wearing a tuxedo? As we glared at each other, Chloe hurriedly intervened. Wait a minute, both of you! What happened? Daniel's my fiancé. Chloe said that, and Daniel and I opened our eyes and mouths, looking at each other's faces. I couldn't believe this man was the fiancé of my dearest and best friend. Chloe, I can't believe you're with someone like him. Just because you have bad luck with men. I exclaimed, pointing at Daniel. In response, he also pointed at me and shouted, Shut up! It's my line! You go home! People like you lower the quality of the wedding. And when you come, it smells like a toilet, doesn't it? He twisted his face as if he were smelling something foul and made a gesture as if to wave me away. Admittedly, I was a cleaner and did clean the toilet frequently, but I've never been told that it smells bad. Hey, Daniel, don't say that! I told you, Luna is my dearest and best friend. Ignoring Chloe's objections, the groom continued to speak. Chloe, why did you bring someone like her? If you're going to marry me, you have to cut ties with low-life people like cleaners who can only do stupid jobs. I don't want to think I'm married to a weird bride. You, for God's sake! I stopped Chloe as she started to say something and said, It's okay. With those words, Chloe seemed to understand something and closed her mouth, glaring at the groom. Meanwhile, I stared firmly at the groom's eyes and said, Thank you for your kind words. Please, look forward to my speech today. I said this, smiling at him. The groom's words didn't hurt my feelings, strangely enough. Instead, I couldn't wait to see his face twist in agony. Ignoring the shouting groom, I had a meeting with Chloe, and after a while, the ceremony began. When I left, there seemed to have been some trouble because both the bride and groom were facing away from each other with dissatisfied expressions. Chloe said that she would register their marriage after the ceremony. Then there was still time. I had decided that I wouldn't let my best friend go through another divorce or marry someone who wouldn't make her happy, so I waited patiently at my seat with that determination in mind. And then it came. It's time for the bridesmaid speech. I received the microphone from the MC and went up to the platform with a smile. Chloe, I'm sorry, but I cannot congratulate you on your marriage this time. Despite the restless audience, I continued my speech. Chloe is a wonderful, hard-working woman who always puts her friends first and raised her daughter on her own. That's why I can absolutely not allow you to marry Daniel. Besides, there will no longer be any advantage to being with that person. Hey, what the hell are you talking about? But Chloe nodded at me, looking me in the eyes. I meant to continue, so I decided to do it thoroughly. Nice to meet you. I am Luna Miller, incoming president of Alpha Securities. What? Yes, I am the next president of Alpha Securities, where the groom works. Currently, my father is the president, but he believes one cannot oversee the company without experiencing the difficulties of all the jobs within the company, so I was told to start as a cleaner before moving on to desk work. Of course, actually sitting in the president's seat is at least 5 years away, but it is a well-known fact among department heads that I am the next president. However, it seems the groom, who was just a regular employee, did not know that. My father told me to experience the cleaning job for a few months, and what I learned is that a person's true nature is revealed in the places they use. I turned to the groom. I found garbage in the private room used by Daniel, who had previously sneered at me for doing such a lowly job such as cleaning. Despite instructing me to clean, he left his garbage behind. Moreover, the table he used was left with soup stains and food scraps, despite spewing ridiculous insults at me for being a mere janitor and how I shouldn't be allowed to eat in the company's cafeteria, and belittling our profession, and even cutting in line. As I spoke, the guests who were listening began to criticize the groom, one after another. The groom is unacceptable, right? There are people who say such things in this day and age. It's going to be annoying when he becomes her husband. Daniel's desk is certainly a mess. The groom seemed to have heard those words, and his face turned red. Stop it! No, please stop! He pleaded so desperately. I went through and said, I believe that such unethical conduct and behavior reduces the value of Alpha Securities. Daniel, I have decided that you are no longer needed in our company. I will also report these events to my father, who also dislikes dishonest people and will make the same judgment as me. As I spoke, the groom continued to tremble uncontrollably and turned pale. I'm terribly sorry. Please forgive me. Daniel came up to me and knelt down. A bow from someone who only apologizes after realizing the person they offended is the next company's president does not touch my heart. When I cut him off like that, the groom put up his head in his hands. I didn't try and comfort him, and Chloe came up to me as well. I thought I might have gone too far, but apparently not. Chloe said to me, Can I borrow the mic, Luna? So I lent her the mic and took a deep breath. I knew how proud Daniel was. He told me many times that being a single mom is a worthless existence, but since I was beautiful and educated, he could brag about me to others. I always thought he was just seeing me as an accessory, but I was willing to accept his pride for the sake of my daughter. The room was stirred once again. I had no idea that Chloe was feeling this way. If I had only known about her fiancé sooner. I felt frustrated, but I bit my lip and tried to hide my emotions. However, if his pride exists not to elevate him, but rather to look down on my loved ones, then that's a different story. He not only hurt Luna, my dear friend since middle school, but he also told me to sever ties with someone like a janitor. This isn't the only reason. I also started to worry that if my daughter were to make a mistake somewhere, would he accept her if she failed? And if my daughter became a janitor like Luna, would he also use hurtful words against her? Chloe's voice begins to tremble. She must have imagined the worst possible future. I rubbed Chloe's back, and she took a deep breath and faced forward again. Her eyes were straight and determined. So I will cancel the engagement. I'm sorry to everyone who gathered here today. And Luna, thank you for stopping me before I married this man. As she said this, Luna hugged me. The guests on the bride's side applauded and cheered, but the groom's side fell into a state of mourning. Not a single person reached out to help the collapsing groom. Afterwards, Chloe did break off the engagement with the groom. She was prepared for a fight, but instead, the groom's parents apologized to her, admitting they had raised him poorly. Even as an adult, forcing your parents to bow down to you is being unfilial. It seems that even Daniel, as expected, was affected by the recent commotion and humbly apologized. After breaking off her engagement, Chloe said, I should have been suspicious. When he was a well-paid securities broker but didn't have a girlfriend by the age of 40. I really have no eyes for men. I talked about introducing her to a man whom I knew of good character, but Chloe said, No, I'll try and do it on my own for a bit. Being a single mom is hard, and there's a lot of hardships, but seeing my daughter smile makes me feel like I can handle being a single parent. Besides, I got alimony from Daniel, so it looks like the financial issues will be resolved. But Chloe seemed to have let it go and had a look of relief, so I'm sure she'll be okay. I think Daniel didn't want to be looked at with curiosity by colleagues who attended the wedding where he was brutally dumped. That's why he resigned before I could do anything. In fact, Rumors were already circulating about Daniel right after the wedding. Where the engagement was called off, people whispered things like, the guy who used abusive language, the guy who was rude to the future company president, the guy who wasted everyone's time by attending the wedding, and so on. It seems that Daniel ended up paying for everything, including the cost of the wedding and the compensation for breaking off the engagement. Even though he's a salesperson earning a good amount of money, it must have been quite a blow for him. He quit his job, but I don't think he'll be living wealthy for a while. It's also not easy to change jobs at the age of 40. On the other hand, I quit my job as a cleaner and ended up filing in for Daniel in sales. Originally, the plan was for me to work in the employee cafeteria and then move on to practical work, but since it was my fault that Daniel was no longer there, it was like I had to make up for it, so my father told me to help out in the sales department. At first, people looked at me with a biased view due to the wedding incident, but perhaps because I hadn't seen my father's work since I was young, or maybe it suited my nature. I quickly became the top performer in sales and was able to demonstrate my abilities through results. By the way, the other day the head of the sales department said to me, "Wow, as expected, Luna, you were the top performer again this month. With you on our side, our company should be safe even if there is a change in leadership." "Thank you, department head," I exclaimed. The general manager then confided in me. Actually, just between us, Daniel didn't have a very good track record. His personality was an issue. He often looked down on people and was very pushy in his approach. We received numerous complaints from clients and colleagues alike, and it was causing us quite a bit of trouble. I didn't know that. I thought he had a good exterior. When I said that, the department head responded, "No way. We thought Daniel might have said some abusive things to the cleaning staff. He had that kind of personality." "Luna, thanks for speaking up. Everyone feels relieved now. Thank you so much." Daniel wasn't very popular. It's funny to think how arrogant he was despite having no support. So I'm steadily taking steps towards becoming the next president at work. And in my personal life, I'm happy spending time with my friends, including Chloe. Thanks to my job as a janitor, which I was looked down upon, I was able to protect my best friend. I'm proud to be a janitor after all. Thank you for watching.